Hello, humans. I'm Dan from the internet. This is your power report for the 16th of December, 2024. This is the morning of 16th of December, 2024, when this clip is being published and premiered. Um, Hope you've had a good weekend. I know mine has been eventful. Generally become a routine of outbursts and lashing out from the two main hosts of the flagship show of the Young Turks' network, The Young Turks, Cenk and Anna. And, usually I'm able to ignore these, even though I know then they're incorrect about certain issues or they're attacking certain people that they used to work with alongside with me to a certain capacity. People who they agree with most of the time, but for some reason they are completely ignoring when all of those people are telling them politely and forcefully that they're wrong and they need to acknowledge how large their platform is and make sure that they're respectful to the weight that it carries. Mondale Robinson abruptly left the network. Anna Kasparian got into a number of fights with former staff and colleagues and supporters. One of those former colleagues was me. And that's when my integrity was under attack. The work that I had built up and influenced people with had been under attack. This work that I've been doing for over 10 years. And as I said earlier, this is a fairly routine thing. And when I did talk about it, I would bring on qualified people to discuss the issues that they were incorrect about. Using clips of media figures as an example to make a broader political point, something everyone in the space does. And so they had ignored every single moment of introspection offered to them until they reached my doorstep. Because of that, I did not have anything left. I knew what I wanted to talk about, I knew what tone I wanted to take, and I knew that I wanted to be a different, unique experience on any platform you're experiencing it on, all leading up to these YouTube moments where we can convene and learn and discuss and grow and move past this struggle session, really. This is a struggle session. So I released the Mondale Robinson interview and made a lot of responses on Twitter, and I'll talk about those in a separate venue. Then in the lead up to this, I released a video with Hank Thompson talking about a lot of the critiques around TYT's unionization efforts. And that all leads to this, my interview with Jayar. Now, frankly, Jayar, like John Iderola, Rashad Ritchie, and a number of others, and everyone on the main staff, a lot of folks that we've talked about or haven't talked about, are some of the greatest people that I've ever worked with. They're great colleagues, they're dedicated people, they're smart, they're savvy, they are scrappy because we have they're, I say we because I used to work there and there's still a lot of connection, but they do a lot with a little and an increasingly shrinking amount just because of the environment for media. And so I have a lot of pride for the work that they do and how dedicated they are to do it. In addition to being really driven in unique and different ways for different reasons to the politics. Jayar was one of the first people I was drawn to on TYT because he was another opinionated Black person in a political space that didn't really have a lot of those, especially those on the left and especially those who were, not just Democrats, but actually left of center at the time. So naturally, once we started working together, we worked a lot together. We worked well together. We continue to be good friends. We haven't talked as much as we have wanted to, but that kind of changes now. So while tensions are heated on all different parts of the broad faction of the left of center in America, informed by media, but also greatly informed by the loss of Kamala Harris to Donald Trump, uh, this is a conversation about how we move forward from this, actually. This is a conversation that we had, you know, outside of a lot of this recent discourse. In fact, we recorded this on the 15th of November. So there will be a lot of questions and points and things that are not really part of this. And so I appreciate that because I can release it now and it still has all of the relevance to how I was thinking about how is TYT and the left going to approach this. And I can't think of a better, more level-headed person to have had this conversation with and to also be able to release this right now. I didn't plan on it, but sometimes serendipity works your way. I honestly wasn't sitting on it just for this moment. I honestly rushed to get it out because I usually sit on everything. In fact, there's a bunch of stuff in the backlog that I'm going to be uploading onto the membership platform, including the full interview that I have with Jayar Jackson, which is already on the membership platform right now. It's one of the first exclusive things on the YouTube channel. And if you're a Syndicate 23 member on our website, syndicate23.co, it's basically our Patreon. So we don't have to give YouTube or Twitch a cut. You can find that there, as well as an archive of a lot of PowerPoint episodes, a lot of audio face episodes, our music podcast, and a bunch more stuff for a really good bang for your buck. Definitely check all of that stuff out. I'm sure you won't regret it. And I'm sure you won't regret this next interview. I think what JR says in here and gets me to say in here is very revealing. You, JR, are, I mean, people kind of know you as a contributor on TYT and host Watchlist. I've been putting that down on the screen. Folks can check that out, youtube.com/watchlist
Thank you.
But how did you kind of, I mean, like before, I don't know how many people know your full story, and you told in a couple different venues, so I won't spend too much time on that. And of course, like I know it, but you know, I know that before that you were a student athlete. Before that, you would like been a couple places around the country. Like, I guess to kind of ground that conversation, not just make it like a biography of like, oh, first this, then this.
Yeah.
I guess through your life experiences, how did you get political enough or like politically interested enough to ultimately take that step of like interning at an unproven political news outlet?
The level of unproven nature was Cenk Uygur. I've always told him this. I said, Cenk, you got kind of lucky with the coalition of people that came at the time they did. And honestly, he got lucky, but then he didn't, because Cenk is a nonstop guy. He won't stop going, if you can't tell yet. So I was telling him, because Jesus Godoy was like producer number one. I mean, there's Dave Kohler, he was there, and then also Jesus. So I started the tail end of my senior year of college. I was looking for an internship. I had just done Fox Sports because I wanted to be a sports broadcast. I had zero interest in politics. I interned at Fox Sports in Los Angeles, and it was a waste of my time. I didn't run my senior year of track because I was like, well, I'm not going to be an Olympian. I'm not that good. I'm only like a Pac-12 at the time, Pac-10 qualifying runner, a hurdler. I was good. I was on a travel team, but I wasn't like, you're not going to catch me at the Olympics. So I was like, I got to start and figure out where I'm going to find my niche in my career. And I like doing sports and everything. I can talk sports. So I tried that, and it was a waste of my time. So I was like, I just need to learn the broadcast game. So I just took this internship, and Cenk put out things to all the local colleges and like, we'll give you the opportunity to run a radio show. So I came in, and it was probably, they weren't in this new studio, which was a little bunk studio in the middle of Los Angeles in Midtown, for very long, because previous to that, they were working out of Cenk's living room. Everyone that knows TYT knows this story. But Jesus was the one guy who was willing to work through going to Cenk Uygur's apartment while his girlfriend had to step out or was there sometimes. And many people would go, yo, I'm going to get into broadcast, not into like somebody hacking me up and put me in the freezer, because you don't know who these people are. It's little Los Angeles. You don't know how many crazy people are there, right? There's 1 trillion people there. So Jesus wrote it out, and I told him, I said, if I had gotten there when you guys were still in the apartment, I'd have been like, oh, a good setup, you guys. And I would have turned my ass around and left. But there's many people who wouldn't have come to the crap studio that we had when I decided to stay. So it's like we had a coalition of people who were willing to walk through the fire to get to the end, and you didn't know if you're ever going to make it to the end. We worked for nothing for a very long time. And that's every startup. That's the same story every startup will say. So anyways, I came in and I was doing that, but I didn't know what a soundboard was. How am I going to run the soundboard? And Cenk and Ben and Jill Pike would just talk, and they were interesting and fun and funny enough, and had a format of just free-flowing speaking. And I was like, yo, this is actually fun. This is actually doing the work that I like to do, but it's fun. And it was a family. And it's still that way, I think, to a large degree. And it's attracted to people who like to see that type of it's a lack of this corporatism and coming in jeans and a t-shirt, bro. It's okay. Wear a ratty baseball cap. We're here to talk. We're on the radio. So I started in with them, been with them ever since, and eventually your roles just keep changing. If he finds that, you know, there's a point where he's like, oh, we need to find some ad seller. Can you just call some people, sell some ads? I was like, how the hell do I do that? I don't know. I don't know how to do that either. So it was a work in progress. And if you can't do it, okay, well, we may not make it past this month. We'll try it next month. And it just built off of that. And it kind of gave you the ability to kind of flow with anything, which we had no idea. Once it became in 2005, we were one of the first partners on YouTube. I think the first partner on YouTube. This show that can adapt to the weird landscape of online media. So when I got there, it was right after it was what, 2002 or 3. So you know, Bush had won. We're talking about, you know, the way that he's going, and you know, 9/11 had happened. He's going into Iraq, and Cenk was raging about how the media doesn't cover things the right way. To this day, go to Twitter or X now, which you probably don't want to go to, but go to that site now. Cenk today, unless it was yesterday, is still posting about how we were one of the first media entities that hates the media and didn't allow them to lie about everything that's happening from online media. I mean, from mainstream media to online. So now that online media has become such a huge, you know, conglomerate, people complain about the lack of reality and truth telling on online, because there's so many people that need to lie to get their point across or make money or, you know, build partnerships. And now people want to shut down or fact check online media. But bro, mainstream media has been lying since forever. We've been complaining about that since we started. So Cenk has not changed much at all. I'm sure some points and topics and arguments we all have do. I got in arguments with Cenk and Ben and them before, but it was very much just like on this one small topic. And we're able to talk it out and move on, even if we continue to disagree on it, which was, again, another good part about it. But it's just that nature of always just going and going and going. And it allowed us, I think, to thrive through the ebbs and flows of this business, because they're hard. Because we didn't come in with like, I work at Fox Sports, and you know, if Fox Sports folds, it's over, bro. Because that's all you have. Or then you have to move on to CBS, and it's limited positions with that. So, anyways, from it being the born of like this online media entity group, it was it's been an experience. And honestly, we had this nature of just putting a story in front of us and going. When I had to start using a teleprompter, I was like, this is really hard. Like, teleprompter is hard. And not because you have trouble reading, but you have to still give the energy of your natural voice. I write everything that I'll say. I'll give like the idea where I want to go with, and then I'll fly off of it. You know, I like to give a launching point. Sometimes it's just starting is the hard part, but you have to read everything you say, and say you read everything that you say that someone else wrote. That's impossible. Why would Jimmy in production write up something for me? That's not what I would say.
I remember doing breakdown with Hassan, and it was we had to work really hard at like finding out each other's voice, because like I would write very academic things, and he would write also very sort of like theory based, or certain like turns of phrase that would be like, okay, if you translate this out of Turkish, I get it. In English, we need to like work on this a little bit. And yeah, I don't think either of us we're very much raised like within that TYT sort of, and you know, media's online sort of framework about you know, we're not using a teleprompter. Maybe we have some notes, or like, you know, we're obviously doing some research beforehand before we go on camera.
Yeah.
But you know, and you know, like I am doing this whole like notes thing lately, so like I'm starting to get like real prepared with my homework and shit. But like, there's a level of kind of freewheeling it that, it's not to say there's anything wrong with using a teleprompter, and there's definitely instances like for Good Morning Bad News where I've used a teleprompter just to get the delivery really fast. Certain mediums, TikTok, Reels, etc., Shorts really demand that. But yeah, that people like that authenticity. But now we like it too much, because people have now turned it into go on. It goes back to that parasocial relationships thing we were talking about a little bit earlier. Go on my favorite show, so I know you agree with me. This is behind so much of the arguments, and they're like, Kamala Harris, go on Joe Rogan, or so and so, go on Chapo or whatever. Like it's not enough for someone to just like express their opinions. You now need to go on a podcast to affiliate yourself with someone and their opinions, which is like I don't know. It's kind of going into how the adaptation of media goes, because you were kind of talking about how like TYT's been adapting for so many years. You did this a little bit in your own approach for like instead of just trying to explain to people, you're just going to show people because you're tired of trying to explain your own existence. How do you think both TYT and just like, leftist media in general has to adapt to these next 4 years of a Trump administration where there isn't going to be, at least for the next 2 years, for the midterms, there isn't going to be a lot of like legislative power to be done. A lot of people are burned out from, fighting on the streets and stuff like that. We have the general strike in 2028 Sean Fain's been talking about to maybe look forward to, but that's 2028. There's still even concerns of like, do we skeleton crew the Democratic Party, or do we get started on ballot access for a third party 5 weeks ago? Like, I don't know, like to the extent that, and I think the left often overstates or can often overstate its influence, but to the extent that we have institutions like the right definitely does, you have to start with the foundation. You have to start to grease the skids somewhere. And I feel like we sort of have that sort of responsibility. That's a heavy question. There's great power comes great responsibility, Jayar. But exactly. Like, have you thought about like how do we approach like the past 4 years with Biden? We were kind of doing like, okay, cool, here's this policy thing. Okay, cool, here's what this right winger said. But like now it's going to be a totally different tone. I think a totally different like point of what we're doing. But we're also at a point where like we're not going to do the 2016 shit over again. Nor do we have the 2016 tools of like us being able to play Facebook and YouTube algorithms like we were back then to get our message out there. Now these are totally run by conservatives if you do have those algorithms.
And corporations.
And if and corporations. And those corporations are like, politics is trouble for us. We're going to deprioritize it anyways.
100%.
So these are all things that keep me up at night.
No, 100%. Yeah, because you'll look up, look, what Watchlist has 1.3 million subscribers, and then you'll get a video that gets 800,000 views, and then a week later you get one that's 5.7. You know what I'm saying?
1,000.
So yes, consistently.
Not to be pocket watching or nothing.
and it's not because of the topic necessarily. You just don't know what it is. Because maybe it didn't get shared enough, or didn't hit at the right time, or have that right trigger word, or someone didn't see it. Like whatever it is that you're trying to analyze and constantly figure out what it is that you're getting to reach for. The hard part is balancing being able to survive and still do the thing that you think is important with a reality-based approach to it, and still being able to literally pay your bills. And they know that. That's why, you'll get some of these folks who call themselves authentic, even right-wing pundits online, and you look up and they're getting paid by someone who is not an authentic right-wing pundit. I mean, they're probably right-wing, but they're not authentic, and they're definitely not grassroots, because they're still controlling that nature. So what looks authentic is not authentic online. It's turned into online media that's facilitated by mainstream powers, still the same way. And it's people, I know people talk about that a lot, but it's really hard to identify it. People will see your funding and stuff like that. Or who the guys who were busted by getting paid by Russia?
Tenant Media.
Right?
Like your Tim Pools, your Dave Rubins.
Who's that other guy with the glasses,
Benny Johnson?
Right? Yeah, Benny.
Yeah.
And so then you have to question, wait a second. What do they believe? Because we're in these stages of capitalism where people will do anything to get their bills paid. Yeah, they'll sell out their positions. Who knows what people really believe? It's politics online now. They're just extensions of the same thing. Political leaders don't believe the damn shit that they say. They just do it. Who knows what Kamala Harris really, really wants to do? Who knows what Kamala Harris really thinks about the genocide that's going on in Gaza? Who really knows? Because she gave us hints that she feels empathy for it, that she wants to do something about it. But to what degree do then her handlers then say, you can't do that, you're going to get destroyed, you know what they're going to call you, you can't do it.
Oh, the Democrats got AIPAC money this election cycle.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But then we'll still be called anti-Israel. We'll still be called like supporters of Hamas, you know. She'll do the thing where she goes, I'm speaking, you know, and then do a right. And then as soon as the backlash came, it turned into, okay, let me find a different way to not directly disrespect these folks. Let me act like I care so that I can get them back on my side. But then I actually do care. So how do I let them know that I really do care? So that if I do get in office, I promise I'm gonna do something else. But I can't really say it because these folks are paying for my campaign too. It's a mixed bag of so many different funding coming in, and influences, and campaign people, and staffers, and feelings getting hurt, and advice that goes from one way to another. Who is the actual final decision-making person that's involved in all this? Nobody knows anymore. But all the one thing that's gonna be consistent is people want to pay their bills. And people that are paying their bills and already have a $3 million mansion and 5 cars in their garage, they're at that level and they don't want to go lower. They actually don't know how to go lower because they're in debt to all those things. We lived around some very rich people in Los Angeles. None of them are debt free. I hope you guys don't think rich people aren't in debt.
Oh, Elon Musk. Don't think Elon Musk is rich. No, Elon Musk found an unlimited money glitch where he's borrowing against his stock market wealth. And so whenever you see, oh, Elon Musk is now worth, his wealth surged after the election day, that's because the stock market surged. And Elon Musk, with his tail between his legs, every time he wants to buy a new house, goes, please, Mr. Wells Fargo, I promise I'm good for it. Look at me, I'm Mr. Rich Money Man. And that's the same thing Jeff Bezos does, and it's the same thing they all do. And guess what? It makes all these banks super rich because then they can charge interest, and they know they're going to get that money back because they know they actually are good for it. So
and then they need political positions and leaders and
1-800 stock buybacks
to help them. Totally right, 100%.
It's a human centipede.
Yep, that's why. James in Nebraska, you're mad about what you think are men going into women's bathrooms because they're like, I need to keep my money flowing while you're not understanding how I'm taking it from you. That is the main objective. You think Donald Trump is rich? How many, okay, think of it this way. How many actual paper dollar bills are you exchanging every day? Do you ever think about that? It's 2024. How often do you go into the grocery store and you're like, oh, eggs are this much, milk is that much, cheese is that much. I spent $105 and I got 12 things. Did you give them 100? Did you give them 5 20s, a 5 and 11 cents? Hell no, you didn't. Did you?
No.
Did you exchange monetary notes? Hell no, you didn't. That's a computer system that says you've got this much, and then when it changes, that's how much you've got again. Keep looking at your digital update of how much you've got. It's
run by a bank, by the way, that makes money off of that like arbitrage piece. And also, like, I love, like, I always thank Ben Mankiewicz for this recommendation. He never, when it comes to Gavin Newsom, he never talks about him in the terms of politics. He always goes, you know, he fucked his best friend's wife, right? It's like, Donald Trump's not rich. You want to know why? You ever been to Vegas? Why is his casino the furthest off the strip? Why is his golf course in Los Angeles all the way in Palos Verdes? Oh, what, you can't afford Beverly Hills?
I've been over there. I remember I stumbled upon Donald Trump's I'm not sure what that one's called. The one it's off the coast, it's off the cliff.
Yeah, the golf course.
Yeah, it's damn near in now I haven't been to LA in a minute. Now I'm forgetting all the areas. San Pedro. Do you guys know what San Pedro is like? Do you know what San Pedro is like? Dan, you know what San Pedro is like.
Lowriders, baby.
I love
Lowriders and doyers.
I love San Pedro. Some of the best tacos I've ever gotten are in San Pedro.
It's also the fish market and the port. Yeah. So, like, when Trump had the airline, he got it from another airline at a fire sale. and they went flying out of the major airports in the major airport in New York, JFK. He got LaGuardia because he's a cheap ass, and LaGuardia was a piece of shit back then. Right? Like, I just gotta say, in like plain ass terms, Donald Trump is like a rapper who's playing with Monopoly money in the music videos. And not that that's gonna take any like air out of the tires for that, but I think
Mhm.
that's like something has to be done when it comes back to this like media conversation and adapting about like I think we need to be a little bit more go back to punching at his ego a little bit. Go back to all these other different things. I have a hot take question a little bit later about actually no, I was gonna no, I'll say it for a little bit later because it's more about like
Okay.
Donald Trump because it's funny. But I want to like just in this other like last piece about like
And
the
also,
right
let me
thing.
know if I haven't answered your questions because I feel like I start and then I may not really get to them.
No, you're doing great. And also
Okay.
the questions are oftentimes starting points. And also I'm looking at time. We'll wrap this up in like 10, 15 minutes or so.
Whatever you want.
But yeah, like you're doing good with all the questions. But just to get onto the point with media and like adapting to that, there's been a conversation about how post Kamala Harris and that the 2024 election, Donald Trump winning rather, that this is going to date this conversation a little bit, but to put this
Okay.
moment in time, the discourse is the left needs a Joe Rogan. The left needs
I've
like
heard that.
a Tony Hinchcliffe. We need all these other different comedians and things like that. And to some extent, I believe that people who pay attention to politics should also have other interests and branch out into those things, because then you can have movie people who are political. You could have car people who are political. You could have MMA people who are political, and like on the left, like Southpaw Sports. I know those people are really good, right? So like,
Okay.
there's a lot of different like angles to do this. There's another angle, which is the country is moving further right. The algorithms themselves, like Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, are controlling these things further right. Maybe the move is to position your coverage further right as well, or position one's coverage further right as well. And it's a very tempting thing because it's like there's a lot of money out there, like you're saying. So like, do you think that there's like any sort of, not saying like you would do this, but like, do you think there's any sort of like strategic advantage to doing something like moving to the right to fit in more with like and move an ideology? Because I think that's like a strategy that people are
Oh,
also
the
pushing.
point being to kind of appeal, and not for the sake of selling out, but more to kind of I hate to use the term because it sounds like the coastal elites educate. Is that what
Yeah,
you mean?
sure. Like people will assuade like whatever mission to it, and like it can be seen as selling out, which could be fair, right? Because like I said, that there's money on that table there, but not
It's
to say,
easy money. It's
yeah,
really
not
easy money.
one of Jayar and I's oldest jokes.
I was gonna say, but I was gonna hold it back.
One of Jayar and I's oldest jokes during production meetings for the main show was Cenk would be saying something, and him and I would look at each other and we'd just go, we could do it real quick, right? And JR would like work up a line. He's like, here's what black people need to do. Like,
I went on a roll for like 5 straight punts one time. I was like, man, I could take this to Fox News right now.
There are so many moments, not necessarily like things we're experiencing, but just like parts in the news where it's just like, it would be so easy to just be black conservatives right now. Like, come on, JR, let's go. Just right now. Let's just do it. Let's just do it.
I was like, I could retire like if I do it for like 3 years. I was gonna say 5, but that's a heavy commitment.
It's like a tour duty.
3 years. Give me like a contract. You're a contributor. You come on like what, twice a week or something? Talk on for 10 minutes on one panel about how horrible America is and how black folks don't really know what they're doing. It's very simple. Then I wouldn't have known the rates, but yo, you make a couple $1 million. You're great. You're good. You're like, I can set that aside, bro. I can go back and kick it. That's like a quick lottery.
Just in out. One election cycle, you'll be like, Alan Keyes is making sense. So it's like no one will ever remember your name ever again.
Think about it. I want you guys to think about. I'm not gonna say they really did that, but because I mean, people have their ideologies. They actually believe it. So I'm not gonna say that black conservatives don't believe what they say, but I wonder, there has to be at least some that don't. There's got to be. To where they
Okay,
like
listen,
they went in.
I was gonna say like Jeff Wiggins had a really good point about Van Jones in a recent video. I mean,
Mhm.
how are you gonna get like black radical Van Jones on the other side, and then I'm gonna take money from Jeff Bezos and just like turn the other cheek a couple years later? There's a certain amount of, Al Sharpton. I'm not gonna say he was like the most radical guy, but
They saw him that
he's
way.
he laid off the blueberry pies and got that MSNBC money and started hitting that Equinox, and then see, I'm getting all the classics in
The
me.
days before Ozempic was the thing.
Unc did that the old-fashioned way. Like, I mean, yeah, that is to that point. That is all to say that like it is very tempting, and it can even be seen as like a noble thing to figure out how to appeal to the right wing. And it's
Maybe
happening at the same time that you're having this like left wing conversation.
maybe the better way to do it, because this actually crossed my mind earlier when you were talking about those guys that were getting paid off by Russian whatever interests or whoever was paying them, and probably Star. If you approach, like again, I said Charlie Kirk's people reached out and they want to debate. They always want to do that stuff like that. And I'm not saying specifically Charlie Kirk's people, but just people like that, because it's a generator for views and money. So so there's a way that you could come in as having your perspective without the assumption that the person you're going to go and talk to that disagrees with you wants to destroy the country. That is the main conflict. Every time anybody has these conversations where you have a differing opinion about the way to go forward with the country, the thought is always, but you want to do this because your actual hidden intention is to destroy this country. That's always it. So that there can be this level of anger at the other person. So then the mindset of the people who support you because they like your points of view, or maybe you said something that was smart enough or agreeable enough that they were like, anything that person says, I'm on board with. And then when they go into one of these disagreements and says, yeah, you guys just like these policies because you hate America. You're like, okay, that's the basis for our argument now. Is now each person has to disprove that they hate America, but then also prove that the other one hates America. That's the only thing we're arguing about. We're no longer arguing about how we're going to get minimum wage up, how are people going to have higher wages. Because if we say, no one says, I want the American people to make 25 cents an hour. Conservatives don't say that either. What they say is that, we just got to give all of our money to rich people, and eventually they'll give us higher wages if you work hard enough. And generally, leftists will say, well, listen, the rich people got tons of money. How about we make them pay us? That's all it is. That's the only difference. We all want people to have more money from this level. Of course, the folks that have all the money, they all agree, whether they're lib-leaning or right-leaning, they all want to keep their money. So they just have different ways of making sure people aren't coming for their money. And then so we're fighting amongst ourselves over things that have nothing to do with money. Did you know that in Omaha, there was a transgender girl that ran track? Bro, what does that have to do with the price of eggs and milk and cheese?
There's a story about migrants that are overrunning a town in middle America. Like, yeah, there's this aspect of stuff is just like, at least the place I come from with it is that I think the left is a coalition. I think whatever little platform that I have is one where, I'm not going to spread misinformation on behalf of keeping a coalition together, but I'm also going to be mindful of the right wing where, I don't think the average Republican voter, maybe inept, but I also think that about the most American voters. I don't think the average Republican voter holds this sort of like animosity. I want to destroy my enemies in the same way that like a Republican pundit does. I guess you kind of have to play that game when you're like speaking rhetorically, right? Like, I know Ben Shapiro has absolute animosity towards people of color, queer people, etc. He does that materially. He expressed that verbally, and he tries to walk it back, even though he literally doesn't actually mean it, right? But
Right.
when you're in a debate with him, when you're in that kind of conversation with him, you can't treat him like that, because then his audience will just use that as, see how uncivil they are
100%.
while see how uncivil they are while I'm talking about deporting their families. So it's sort of this weird like catch-22 thing. But like I've always found that yeah, it's always easy to go, okay, this story is being talked about for a reason because of all these right-wing incentives that exist. How can I provide an answer for the left so that whenever someone brings up the trans swimmer, I can go like, oh, you know, the person complaining about that would have gotten like 4th or 5th place in that race anyways. So it's like, it's not
100%.
like you took some scholarship or something from this one. This is a whiny sore loser who wouldn't even made podium, who is turning this into an issue because she's now a conservative celebrity. You talk about one of my favorite, again, you're like wait and see and just watch what happens approach has made me, has enlightened me so much, because I saw what happened with admissions this year. This is the first year where affirmative action was not allowed to be used for admissions. And guess what? Admissions of Asian students went down. And again, I'm not trying, and again, like Asian
this
and
is fact-based.
Yes, Asian and Latino are one of those, like, it's such a broad category, you have to really break it down. So I'm not going to say like all Asian American Pacific Islander folks are like railing against affirmative action, but you had a lot of conservative poster children who were white women and Asian men and Asian women who are saying that like we're working hard and we're losing out on all of our spots to blacks. Guess what happened, Playboy? You lost your spot.
It's one of those things. Yeah, because results, factual things that we gloss over. When someone gives you a factual argument and evidence within an argument, you know what we do all the way up to presidential candidates? We gloss right over it. J.D. Vance was told a lot of things that were factually based. And then when he had to answer for it, he goes, I don't think the American people care about that. That is the answer every time to something when someone's cornered. If you hear a politician say, I think the American people care about, and they go to 7 other things, it means you just had them cornered. And as soon as they go to those 7 other things, listen, and then go, okay, but what I asked you about was why is it that you think that women should have lesser, their people without children should have a lesser role in our society? Because, or just come with them and say, it's all it is a made up set. I don't think the American people care about that. We're like, actually, the American people do care about that. So answer the damn question. But they're not going to do it. Then they eventually won't come on. They have the power of making sure that you don't have any views because you couldn't land the vice presidential candidate, all that same stuff. They use their power of the fact that you need them on your show to, again, it all comes back to making money, getting views. And this goes to mainstream media. This isn't just an online media thing. So anyways, back to the original thing that you were asking about. Maybe it's not so much that you go in there with this idea that you have to agree with the people that you disagree with, so therefore become a sellout. But then more so that you come with the energy of, or even have an agreement, be like, I want us to discuss the topics. I want us to discuss how we get to what we both agree we would like, which is a prosperous America for everyone. And if they don't want to agree to that, because then they say, well, these black people are lazy, these Latinos don't want to do anything else, they're all illegals, then you can hit them with the facts. The hard thing with being that person is it's hard to come with a million facts and figures off the top of your head. And it's really easy to say they're pouring across the border at unprecedented numbers. Did you know that they're raping at higher levels than ever in American history? And then now you have to go, okay, let me look up the actual numbers to how many actual sexual assaults happen to children based off of this particular demographic, whether it's this men or women or trans folks or drag queens, because the numbers will tell you that it's white men. Just saying. But then that becomes offensive because any white man that's listening will then go, well, how dare they come for me like that? I'm not coming for you like that. I'm telling you the facts. We detach ourselves from facts and reality because we've told normal folks that smart people think they're better than you. So if someone comes with facts and figures, they look like a smart person and they're not actually. You don't have to be smart to read to a degree, but you don't have to be smart to read. It's
no one calls you woke for
based.
reading stats from a sports game.
Right? It's not like we have to detach ourselves from letting them characterize reading as an elitist thing or reciting facts and evidence as a elitist thing. Remember when Obama ran? They said he's an elitist, Harvard educated law guy.
I'm old enough to remember
That
when
was
Biden described him as clean and articulate.
yeah. It was a bad thing to be smart. Now Donald Trump runs around and says that his uncle worked for MIT. Which one is it? Are we supposed to be stupid or not? That dumbass Pete Hegseth. He said, I'm never gonna. I did this in one of my videos on Watchlist. He goes, one of his older rants on Fox and Friends. He goes, anybody from now on, anybody that I see that's graduated from an Ivy League, elitist college, I'm automatically gonna assume that they have no common sense. And then I think it was Jessica Tarloff. She goes, didn't you graduate from Harvard and Princeton?
Ooh.
But they just use it in that moment. He goes, yeah, and he moved on.
Same with JD Vance. Everybody want to rail against the elite, and you're even seeing this on TikTok. There's a bunch of people who are talking about, oh, college isn't worth it. Oh, you can make so much money without going to college, and these are all college graduates. It's like, wherever the sauce is coming from, check the source. Check the source. Check the expiration date.
Yeah.
No, here's my fun curveball question, unrelated to the media stuff. Although I think it was like really insightful, and I think it's like really important about what you said, because a lot of like what I got from that is just like, it's important to just like be yourself and show the information there, and not fall for these like right wing trans panics and immigration fears, because they fall on fear. Trans panics?
Yeah.
Oh no, totally.
I'm too detached. I didn't know that term.
No, totally. Yeah. As my late great friend Michael Brooks used to say, see, he's right here on my shirt. Shout out Letterhack. Here's the pitch. Members got to experience the ideas you just heard first, with extra minutes and with fewer interruptions. Interviews with Mondale Robinson, Jayar Jackson, Jason Miles, and more are waiting for you. The future won't wait, so make yourself included. We can't build without you. And by we, I mean our initial members across YouTube, Twitch, and Syndicate23.co, including Shargoon at the Syndicalist level and the Anti-Corporatist at the Stingray level. Thank you so much for your support. Moderator Pinkerbell leading the Scorpions, Logan Hill, Cy Abelman, Danielle Capone, Benjamin Morrill, John Lucuyer, Lena P, Stoneflower Dragon, Hamather Sig, Mouse in the Dragon Onesie, Squishmallow Dragon, Late Bloomer 66, Mobile Newman, and all the Syndicate 23 day ones, including Bowen, Lisa, Daniel, another one, Carrie, Lori, and the discount Seth Rogen. Look at what we're building together. Thank you for seeing the vision. The power is always within you. Cheers.